How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today as we cover some more training camp topics as we get closer and closer to the first preseason game for the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Arizona Cardinals. That comes to you on Saturday. Be sure that you follow me on X at Dom Minchella, as well as at KC Chiefs on SI over on X, to be sure that you don't miss any coverage from that game. Will be a lot of things that you're not going to want to miss. So Kansas City Chiefs on SI is the place to be to get your Chiefs news. But today, we're going to be talking about some veteran leadership that the Kansas City Chiefs have and have thrived with thus far through training camp and even dating back a few years. This dynasty would not have been in flourishing if the Kansas City Chiefs didn't instill leadership out of their veterans, whether it's a defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo, whether it's head coach Andy Reid, those two veterans and future Hall of Famers of the NFL, in part with players. Veteran leadership is the key reason why the Kansas City Chiefs will go into this season not expecting to take a step back in that department. We've seen a lot of things this season, or off season rather, claiming that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to take a step back because they're getting older. In my viewpoint, these guys have just aged like fine wine, and being older doesn't really come into play because only a handful are past their prime, and some of them are still in like the back end of their prime. I don't necessarily think that age is going to be a problem for the Kansas City Chiefs. Rather, I think that age and experience is going to help. Let me break down some examples for you coming into this season, with the most obvious one starting now with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is one of the longest tenured Kansas City Chiefs on the roster. He has been through the system, through St. Joe, all the time in training camp. He has been a leader on and off the field, whether you're in the playoffs or you're playing week 5 against, anybody in years past. Travis Kelce is a player that has been able to kind of build off his legacy in itself and has learned from others along the way. Keep in mind, a lot of people say that Travis Kelce might go down as the best tight end in the National Football League in history. This is a guy that has been able to, and he hasn't done it, out of luck. Not only has he been consistent, but he's also been a leader to those that are beneath him or behind him in the Kansas City Chiefs tight end depth chart room. For example, this offseason thus far in training camp, Noah Gray has said that Travis Kelce has been a terrific leader, whether he's involved in the play or he's not involved in the play. Kelce has something to say. He's got something to watch for, and he's the meaning is to get this Chiefs offense back into the swing of things with the preseason coming up, the preseason games, that is. Because then really what you practice is what you preach. If you practice hard now in the preseason, you're going to have the exact same mindset going into the new regular season. I think that Travis Kelce can be a strong veteran leader this season going into the tight end room, as well as for the safety department, Mike Edwards. We know that Mike Edwards is kind of being brought in as a leadership fill-in for the departure of Justin Reid. Justin Reid did a very good job at, communicating, being there for his players, or his teammates rather. And Mike Edwards, he has the experience playing with Justin Reid. Now that Reid's gone, Edwards in itself, he doesn't have to mimic verbatim exactly how Justin Reid was to encourage and motivate the other young safeties in the room. The safeties in itself, they've got a very strong young depth in that room. And I just think that Mike Edwards, in his 1-year season that he's signed to with the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be able to elevate the game and, kind of give tidbits from here and there of, hey, you should do this different. Maybe try this. I really like that. What if we did this? It's all about the leadership. And I think that those two guys that we've mentioned thus far have a very strong chance of doing so. One of the biggest leaders for the Kansas City Chiefs, though, on the defensive side of the football, Steve Spagnuolo loves this guy, and it is Nick Bolton. The Chiefs extended him for the next 3 seasons. They wouldn't have done so if they didn't like his leadership and his production. When you got that, you could be a really good leader but have kind of lackluster production. If Nick Bolton, as we've seen in 3 out of the 4 seasons in his career thus far, he's totaled over 100 total tackles in those games. He is a dominant force on the defense. Steve Spagnuolo can trust him, and Bolton is embracing looking at and learning and teaching his young teammates to hopefully follow in his footsteps. Now, this has no by mean of the word is it like there he's trying to fill them into becoming the next Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is Nick Bolton. However, Nick Bolton has the experience in the veteran leadership that he can kind of pass down. Hey, this worked for me. Maybe think about this. Then when they go into those snaps, they think about it. And if it didn't work out this way, then they have a better understanding of what works for themselves. I think that Nick Bolton is the biggest veteran leader on the defensive side of the football, and it's going to show this season. Keep your eyes peeled for them. And for a wide receiving room that is looking to be more explosive this season, we've heard thus far from head coach Andy Reid that the biggest leader in the veteran department stepping up in that room is Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, you might remember me talking about Juju in the past. He doesn't have to be this 1,000 receiving yard player any longer. He's done it in the past. He has experienced both good and bad with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have a very young wide receiving core. With the potential of Rashee Rice not being able to play for the first part of this season, you got to lean on players like Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Jalen Royals, Nico Remigio, guys like that. They're all young. Juju has been seeing the experience unfold in front of his eyes for several years in a row. And the way that they can be explosive is maybe Juju doesn't have to be the explosive part in that, but he can be the eyes behind the scheme, rather, so to say. Meaning that if Juju has a sideline role where he's kind of looking and seeing how the defenses is, then when they come into a huddle or something like that, then he would be able to say, hey, this is how they're doing this. This is how they're doing that. I think that Juju, Nick Bolton, Mike Edwards, Travis Kelce, you could throw in several other players, Patrick Mahomes, as well as Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. Veteran leadership is going to maintain this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty, and it's going to be seen during the regular season. As always, ladies and gentlemen, as I stated earlier, be sure to follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. We've got a preseason game up against the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Arizona Cardinals. You're not going to want to miss it, and I'm going to bring you all the coverage as well as our wonderful writing staff, which you can follow over at KC Chiefs on SI. All of your news totally free, and it's the place to be to get the Kansas City Chiefs beat. As always, ladies and gentlemen, be kind to one another, and I'll see you tomorrow.